Welcome to the Limitless Podcast. The Limitless Podcast is centered around exactly that, being limitless. Hunting, fishing, fitness, nutrition, adventure, disabilities. What may be covered during the Limitless Podcast will be, well, limitless. Stay tuned for this episode of the Limitless Podcast. Hey, good morning, listener, Limitless Podcast fans. Another episode for you guys today. This one is kind of near and dear to my heart. We're talking about something that's crucial in it can be out of your vehicle. It can be on trail hikes. It can be backpacking. It can be backcountry hunting. It could even be in some foreign travel, depending on where you're going and what you plan on doing. But I have with me Sawyer products with me today, which they make water filters, water filtration systems and products. And then they also are known for their bug spray. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But first, I want to talk about show sponsors. I'm going to throw out these listener codes for you guys again. So we're going to start out Hunting Day Coffee. I'm having a cup of their Whiskey Willow right now. I do a pour over version of this. Hunting Day Coffee is incredible coffee out of Virginia. And that is 10% off of your order at their website, huntingdaycoffee.com. Be Limitless 10 for that 10% discount. Phelps Game Calls, near and dear to my heart as well. They have a 20% discount code. That is a one-time use right now on their website, so spend it wisely. That is Be Limitless 20 for that 20% off of one order at phelpsgamecalls.com. On Point Adventure Foods, which is my favorite freeze-dried company on the market right now. They are a faith-based small U.S. company out of Pennsylvania. All of their ingredients are locally sourced. They have meals custom to your order. They're offering Limitless Podcast listeners 10% off at their website on any order. That is Be Limitless 10. Vortex does not deal directly with the consumer, but Vortex is offering you as a listener 25% off any Vortex product at eurooptics.com. That code is, listen in, write it down, VTXLMTLS25. Again, that is for 25% off any Vortex product at eurooptics.com. And we have Wilderness Athlete, 20% off any order from their website. That is Be Limitless 20 for a 20% discount there. We have the Love Sauce Hot Sauce. Love Sauce is offering 10% off an order of $12 or more, and that's Be Limitless 10. And then the last thing, the guys at Latitude Outdoors requested that through the end of May, throw out this program that they have site-wide, everything that they have, as long as they have inventory, 20% off their entire website right now through May 31st. There is no code. No other programs and or discounts are eligible right now through May 31st on latitudeoutdoors.com. Your entire order is 20% off on anything as long as it's in stock. So with that said, we're going to jump into talking about hydration. And I have Laura sitting here in front of me. Laura, I don't remember how long ago it was that I connected with you guys outside of just ordering or using your product. And it started out just by tagging you guys in some Instagram stuff because I'm running around all over the nation taking your filter systems everywhere that I go. And then it went from, some Instagram chatter to some back and forth emails. And then when I was co-host of Sprocket and Chubb's outdoor podcast, you guys sponsored a couple of our episodes that we did. And then I had the pleasure of meeting you at the ATA in January, and that was great. And I know Al Quackenbush, who was my partner on Sprocket and Chubb's, he was the Chubb side of that endeavor. we had talked about hosting you and your significant other to talk about your outdoor adventures together, and I still plan to do that with you guys. But this show is, or this episode is going to be dedicated to your hydration and permethrin products.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got some great stuff. Kind of love people staying safe in the outdoors. Want to make sure everybody's having a good time and able to enjoy it for as long as possible. So that's kind of what we cover is outdoor protection gear from water filtration to insect repellents. Just kind of making sure people are out there having a good time and able to enjoy it.
And how do we ensure that we're out there having a good time and enjoying it, being safe? Right? There's three keys when you leave a vehicle or you leave the modern environment to go into the backcountry and get back to our roots. Um, because nature cultivates good health. There's three things that a person has to have or be concerned of. Everything else is just added benefits. But those three things are food, water, and shelter, right? So we know that we can carry, as much food and as an elaborate shelter as we want or need that we can physically carry on our back. If you start adding potable water to that load, the weight ratio goes up exponentially in a hurry, right? For
Sure.
instance, last November, me and two other buddies packed into a wilderness area that we knew was a dry camp. The nearest water source was a mile and a half from our camp. And we made the decision that we wanted to pack in several days of water rather than having to do a 3 mile round trip every 24 to 48 hours. So I had 33 pounds of potable water strapped under the meat shelf of my pack on the initial trek into this pitch site. It's miserable. My pack was over 100 pounds because I had 4 days of water strapped onto my back.
I remember you guys tagging us in that photo, and that was insane. I can't imagine how heavy that pack was.
It's, people talk about, you want to go light in, heavy out, right? You want your heavy load, your heavy pack to be on the way out with a harvest on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, do I ever want to do it again? Absolutely not. Do I think it was the right call for that hunt? I absolutely do. But what I'm driving at is we can take a really cool shelter. You can take layers of clothing with you. You can take a really nice quilt or mummy bag or whatever you need, whatever your sleep system is. You can take your main meals and snacks, and you can have, everything that you want to munch on in your pack. But if you don't want to carry days worth of potable water with you, you have to have a way of ensuring the water that you encounter out in the wild is safe to drink, because there's numerous parasites that you can ingest in water that can either make you really, really uncomfortable and ruin that event and or put your life in danger, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't want to shotgun you with questions you don't have answers for, because I didn't preload you with anything going into this podcast. So I apologize if I asked you some questions that you don't have answers to. I am kind of curious though, if where and how Sawyer was started,
Okay.
and what that background looks like, and by the end of the show, I do want to talk about some of the things that Sawyer does worldwide that a lot of your other water filtration companies do not do. But I don't want to get into that right away. I do want to focus on the on the aspect of your packable water filtration systems. But what are the roots of Sawyer?
Yeah, so Sawyer was founded in 1984. It was originally our flagship product was the extractor pump. So that's just kind of a little pump. We still sell it, but it extracts snake venom, bee stings, all that kind of stuff. So when you're in the backcountry, just kind of a first step until you can get to a doctor if you have a snake bite or anything like that. So this is our, like I said, 40th anniversary. We've been around for a long time. Started with first aid, kind of moved into insect repellents, and then added water filtration in the early 2000s. So kind of been this evolution. Yep. We were the first to bring permethrin to the market. It was originally developed for the military. So we brought that to, regular consumer use, added picaridin after that. And then, like I said, got into water filtration, and water's really kind of become a big part of our business in the last few years. And like you said, it's kind of given us a segue into giving back to our community and the rest of the world.
So two things from that. I did not know that Sawyer's been around that long. That's awesome.
Right.
I did not know that Sawyer was the first company to bring DEET products, or that level of insect repellent, to the consumer market out of the military. And I've used 100% DEET in my life in certain areas and applications. And honestly, it's miserable. It truly is miserable. When you rub it on a boonie hat, or you have it on anything that's going to be around your face and your head, and then that gets directly on your scalp, pounding headache, miserable. It's just absolutely miserable.
I don't know that we were the first ones to bring DEET to the consumer market, but we were with permethrin.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, just it's a long-standing company, and it's great. We're still pretty small, kind of a small, tight-knit group, but it's awesome to kind of, I get to know the founder, and it's kind of a family company at the same time. So it's a neat place to work. So very special. We get to do a lot of cool things being a small company like that.
Well, so talking about the company being, 45 years old, which, in today's society, there's a lot of companies that are older companies that have not survived the transition of the economy and then technological advances. So look at Kmart, KB Toys, Sears. That's just the name, three major companies that were around for decades, if not over 100 years, that were unable to shift their business platform, their marketing platform, to the change in technology, and they went away. So for Sawyer to be 45 years old, and competing with technological advances in water filtration, and still having a corner of that market, I think that's astounding. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about water filters, or do you
Yeah,
want
we
to
can
talk
jump
about
right
your
into
bug
filters.
sprays?
We can jump into
Okay.
filters. Yeah, so all of our filters have the exact same technology. So basically, this is what's inside every one of our filters, whether you're using our regular squeeze, or our mini filter. It's all going to be the exact same hollow fiber, zero point 0.1 micron filtration. So every single pore in our filters is 0.1 microns. So that way we know we're capturing all the bacteria, protozoa, cysts, 100% of microplastics that are going through the water. So that's kind of something that also sets us apart from a lot of our competitors. Every single pore, like I said, is the exact same size. So it's absolute. We're not using an average. Some folks will do they'll have 0.1 microns, they'll also have 0.2 microns, but then they'll have 0.05 microns. So it averages to the 0.1, but we know with the 0.1 microns, we're getting everything, because water is going to take the path of least resistance. It's going to go through larger pores first. You'll get most of it that way, but this way we know we're getting it all. So
Really, really quick, do you have any background on the microns?
I
And
don't.
okay, all right, then I'm not going to ask that. I have some education on that. But that's when we're talking about microns, you're talking about, it almost equates to, how animals smell, how we smell. It's how stuff travels through the air, it's how stuff travels through a fluid. That's how a face mask or filters work on a full face mask, or even the little mask that you put over your mouth and nose. A surgical mask, if you're trying to wear a buff, we're talking about filtering those teeny tiny particles that you can't see with the naked eye, that's only seen on a microscope.
Mhm.
Keyword there is microscope, right? That's a micron. If you don't, whatever you're trying to filter with, be it a surgical mask, a paint mask, a respirator, if you don't have micron level filters and the appropriate micron level, then you're targeting specific things. If your holes are too big, all that bad stuff is getting in. So that's what's key about the Sawyer filter being the same across the board, when we're talking about the law of averages, and this is what some companies are doing, is they're almost rolling the dice on your comfort, right? So I'm going to Idaho for 10 days of backcountry in September. I would much rather use a filter that is zero point zero 0.01 across the board. I know it's going to filter out everything every single time to not to failure. It's not going to fail on me, rather than taking a filter that's on average. Well, what if that average fails me on this trip on day 3, day 5, and then it has a negative impact on my trip? That's not worth it to me. So that's anyhow.
That's
I'll get off the micro platform.
And we can get into this later too, but like with our purpose work, when we're going to these places that need clean water, that's why we're, very proud of what we sell, because we know whenever we give them this, that it's going to clean their water. Because in those cases, they're 100% dependent on this filter for a clean water source. So we want to make sure that they're getting clean water every time they use it. But this filter, the way this works, is actually originally developed for kidney dialysis. So it's originally developed to clean your blood. We kind of adjusted it to clean water. So some other cool things about this: really, really strong hoop strength. We were talking about cleaning your filter. So with this strong hoop strength in these filters, you can back flush it very, very vigorously. So over time, with these small pores, it's going to build up sediment inside there. When you're cleaning really dirty water, it's going to capture all the dirt and nasty stuff in there. So eventually you'll have to clean it out. So all of our filters come with a syringe. So you filter out some clean water. It might be a little hard if your filter's getting clogged. Fill this syringe, and then you're going to back flush it against the flow rate. So you push that clean water backwards through the filter, and it's going to knock out all that dirt and sediment and nasty stuff in there. We recommend you do that every time you come home from a trip. If you're filtering, out of a clear mountain stream, it's not going to clog up really fast. But if you're filtering out of the Missouri River, you're going to have to do it pretty often. So it just kind of depends on your water source. Sometimes they can get really, really clogged, where that water is just not coming through anymore. In that case, again, back flush it very vigorously. If it's still not coming out, I'm going to soak it in hot water for 1 to 2 hours, not too hot that you can't put your hand in there, but just really warm water. And then you're going to back flush it very vigorously again. And if you're using really mineral rich water, you can also soak it in vinegar for about 30 minutes and go through that process again. So we've had some of these filters in use for about 15 years now in some third world countries, cleaning water. So we know as long as it's being taken care of, like our regular squeeze actually has a lifetime guarantee. So it's protected against any defects, any of that kind of stuff. And then our mini filter is 100,000 gallons, which is basically a lifetime. And like I said, it's the same technology in both of them. So as long as you're regularly cleaning and taking care of it, it's going to last a really long time.
So Lauren, really quick, learning lesson here. I purchased my first Sawyer squeeze in 2019, and I've had that squeeze up until this last week, and it's been on a lot of trips with me. I've had a lot of great memories attached to that little filter, and it was not flowing water. And I flush my filter religiously. I back flush it when I come home. I back flush it before I go. Typically within 48 hours of departure on a trip, I will back flush it. And I've back flushed it out in the field, and the flow rate was reduced to where I literally blew a seal out on one of my dormitory bags trying to get the water flow to go through the filter. So I chalked it up as well. It's just done. It's time for it to get replaced. I came home, and I know the way that I work. I'm like, if I just go ahead and stow this back in my gear load out in the shop, I'm going to forget. And then my next trip, I'm not going to have enough time to get a new filter. So I took it and I threw it away. I'm like, if I throw this thing away, I know that I'm going to have to go buy another filter. Well, I couldn't find just the filter, so I reached out to Laura, and she's like, hey, there's so many ways to clean that should last your lifetime. You don't need to throw it away. That was 24 hours too late. We had already put it in the trash, and we had already made a run to the transfer station, and it's gone. So I
Yeah.
had to buy a new filter. So lesson learned for everybody.
Yeah,
If
we've
you
never had one come in that we either haven't been able to fix ourselves or walk somebody through on the phone. So that was a
Big
bummer.
learning lesson on my part.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And I was happy to purchase another filter, but just if there's a listener out there that's having water flow issues with their Sawyer product, don't throw it away. Reach out to them and get some troubleshooting information, and or it sounds like you can send it into them for maintenance and have it returned free flowing for you.
Yeah, so really the only thing that would knock your filter totally out of commission is if it freezes after you've used it. So, I mean, if we ship this thing in the package to Alaska and it's -30, it's going to be fine. But once you've used that filter, there's always going to be some kind of water in the filter. So if that freezes, it expands, it can break those fibers in there. So anytime, if you're going to be hiking in cold weather, if you're dipping down below freezing, we recommend that people store their filter in their coat pocket, sleep with it in your sleeping bag at night, do your best to keep that filter temperature above freezing if you're going to be in those kinds of conditions. But that's besides if you somehow just bash this thing against a rock and it cracks the casing. Those are really the only two things that are going to knock your filter out of commission.
So
So,
that might be why my filter was not flowing correctly, because in December I had my water filter in, like, it was in the teens, the
mhm,
low teens, and then in March I was in single digits with my filter, and
yes.
and I just had it sitting in my pack. It wasn't it was frozen.
Yeah, that's the only if you think that your filter might have frozen, we do recommend that you just toss it and get a new one, just to make
Well,
sure that you're staying as safe as possible. Because there's really no way for us to test that economically. I mean, by the time that we would run it through testing, it's easier for us to provide a new filter too. Uh,
okay.
that being said, every single filter that comes off of our lines is tested 3 times before it gets to the consumer. So we don't do batch testing. We individually test every single filter for sonic welding and to make sure all the fibers are made properly, they're the correct size. Um, every single filter is tested before it hits the market because we want to make sure, again, that we're maintaining that quality. If you're going to trust us to keep your water clean and keep you healthy and alive, that's just kind of one extra step that we take to make sure that we're taking care of our customers.
Well, I didn't know that either. That's really cool information.
Yep.
So I have my water filter bag here. The only thing it's missing is my squeeze, and then also a small piece of surgical tubing, which I don't even know if your new kits have that. You can talk about that if you want to, but when you order a Sawyer, this is the Sawyer squeeze. I'm a big fan of the squeeze. I've never owned the micro. I probably won't. The squeeze is small, it's lightweight, it's easy to pack and carry, and it works really, really well. So when you order the kit, it comes in this really cool little mesh bag. And I live by this bag because I can put all of my empty bladders in here. I can put my water filter in here. So we'll start pulling stuff out. So I have I have 2 bags currently in there, but depending upon the trip and how I'm going, or where I'm going, I typically have at least 3 bags with me. I'll have two, and you see these, I have in a permanent Sharpie, I have put a D Delta for dirty on my bags. I never ever cross contaminate my bags ever. Even after I come home and I do my own cleansing with these, and I can talk to you about what I do to clean my bags after trips, I never ever cross contaminate my bags. That way, I know when I'm filtering water in the wilderness that I'm not exposing myself to bugs. So I have my bags. So I will always have 2 dirty bags in here, and I have the hydration um, system for my pack, and then I will carry a clean dromatory bag, 1 or 2 liters. I will at least have one clean bag, but I'll often have a couple of dirty bags and a couple of clean bags. That way, if you have an opportunity, if you pitch near a water source, and if you're going to go filter water, I usually just filter as much water as I can at one time because I'm there, I'm doing it. So I'll just run through, I'll fill up as many clean sources as I can. And then I'll typically fill up my dirty bags as well and take them back up to my shelter. That way, if I come back late or if I'm really tired, I don't have to worry about getting back down to the water source, pulling my whole water kit out, doing the whole thing. I can literally just sit in my shelter. I can sit on my little seat, or while I'm waiting for my meal to cook, whatever it happens to be, I can sit there and filter water as I need it. So that's in my bag. You do get the back flush syringe. Now, when I bought this kit in 2019, it came with probably a 10-inch piece of surgical tubing that would allow you to attach the syringe to the filter. I have since lost that, and I don't need it. This attaches directly to the squeeze, and you can back flush it just squeezing this. So I am no longer have that little piece of tubing, and I have found that it's not necessary. Then you will also receive this little spout. What this spout gives you the ability to do is you can either put this directly onto your squeeze. So you can put a dirty bag onto your filter, put this on the clean side of the filter, and you can squeeze water straight in your mouth. You can squeeze it into a cup or your jet boil or whatever your cooking source is. So that's what this is for. And then you receive this adapter. So this adapter connects to, I really wish I had my squeeze here. This can connect to here. But typically, so this would, if this was a clean bag, it connects on here, and then your filter connects on that. And then you have the dirty bag that would be connected on the dirty side of your filter. Now, what I do, when I filter my water, I keep this loose on the bag side. So it's threaded snug or tight onto the filter. And then I keep it a little bit loose on the bag. That allows airflow, air pressure to get out of my clean bag. So as you're squeezing the dirty water through the filter, it can free flow into your clean bag. If you don't do that, if you get everything all nice and tight on both ends, the air that's inside your clean bag doesn't have anywhere to go. And at some point through that filtering process, the water flow is going to stop until you loosen the bag up, let the water out. And I've even tried putting a collapsed bag on it. And as it expands, there's always an amount of water in there. And I end up having to loosen it up and let the air pressure out. So I've just learned that I just keep this adapter a little bit loose on the water bladder side, and it allows the air to just free flow out of my clean bag. I don't know if you have a tip to add to that or any other experience with it, but that's what this little blue adapter is for.
So some of the cool things about our filters is there's so many different points of use. So our squeeze, they're all threaded to go. They're 28 millimeter threading. So this will go straight on like a smart water bottle, a Coke bottle, anything like that. So in addition to your bags, you could also, just use a smart water bottle. For whatever reason your bags failed. That's one of the really popular things to do on the long distance trails like the AT and all those kinds of trails. Folks will just put this straight on a smart water bottle, fill up their smart water bottle, and keep going. Both of this and our mini can go in line on your hydration pack. So if you're wearing a camelback, anything like that, you can cut the line, right around your shoulder and just drink straight through your straw. Yep. So you can just splice that surgical tubing and drink straight through your hydration pack. Kind of like you were saying, this isn't a total necessity, but like I have a clean hydration pack for whenever I'm just filling up at home. And then I have one that I use whenever I'm going to be using my squeeze and filling it up with dirty water. So there's just lots and lots of different uses there. This one will also go on a smart water bottle. So kind of, I guess I can get into the difference between the two of these. It's really just size. Like I said, same technology in all of our filters. This is kind of our workhorse, our squeeze. So this is great for personal use. You can also use it for group use. With it being a little bit bigger, it's not going to fill up with sediment quite as fast. You're not going to have to back flush it quite as often as you will with the mini. Like I said, they can both go inline. The squeeze needs a little adapter to do that. This one's kind of pre-rigged and ready to go. It's got both of those little ends there. They're both going to do the exact same thing, just a little bit of a weight difference. But for the most part, the squeeze is our most popular filter.
So a couple of other things that I want to add to our filter chatter. You were talking about putting the filter in line with your hydration system. This is, and I should have just brought in my bag and hoses with me. So this adapter hose comes with your filter kit. It has a quick disconnect here. So I went to REI and I bought the Osprey. Osprey sells a quick disconnect male and female. So I cut the feed hose on my filtration, on my hydration kit on my pack. And I put the connection exterior of the bag up by the shoulder. So now when I attach this to my filter, this I unconnect my feed hose. I connect it to the side that goes into the hydration bag. So I don't have to open my pack. I don't have to expose my bladder. I just connect this thing, and then my dirty bag and my filter are connected here. And I just squeeze water directly from this dirty bag straight into the bladder inside my pack. Now, my application is primarily hunting, but even if, when I'm recreational backpacking, I use a running hydration vest for long distance running. One of my biggest pet peeves is water sloshing. It drives me absolutely nuts. That's why I don't use a hard water bottle. Nalgene bottles are very, very popular as a clean water container in the backcountry. They slosh. It drives me insane. So when I'm using bladders, and this is why I like these. So whether it's my dirty bag and I'm going to pack dirty water around, which sometimes you have to, or your clean water, here's a trick. Let's say this bag is full of water right now, but there's an air void in there. So you put the cap on this, and then you slowly squeeze your bag until you can see that water line come up here. And then you seal it. Now you are slosh free. There's no room in there there's no air void in there for that water to slosh around. You can do the same thing with the bladder in your hydration system. All you do is you flip it upside down. So the feed hose connection is at the top of the bag. And then you start pulling water and air through your hose, and you just watch your hydration bag. And that water level, it's going to suck all the air out of it. And then that water level is going to come through the hose. Now your water bladder in your pack doesn't slosh around anymore. So that's, I will often have to expose my water bladder in my pack just to ensure that I don't have that air void in there, because again, it just absolutely drives me insane. So that's what this cool little hose is for. The other neat thing about this system, and I talked about sitting in camp and filtering water. This is not only does it work off of pressure, meaning you're squeezing your dirty bag to force the water flow through the filter. And from my knowledge base, correct me if I'm wrong, but we cannot squeeze our dirty bladders to force water through at a high enough flow to cause our filters to fail. It's physically impossible. So matter, whether you're doing gravity feed, which I'm going to talk, that's what I'm getting to, or you're force feeding water by squeezing onto your bag, you're not going to exceed the filtration potential of that filter. But you can
we do hear some negative feedback about our bags on occasion, but that bag will give away before you can do any kind of damage to the filter. So don't squeeze it too hard, give it a firm pressure, but you don't want to be there just yanking on it. So yeah, that bag is it's a little bit of a fail safe there, just to make sure you're protecting yourself. But yeah, with the gravity feed system, we do sell a 1 gallon gravity bag it comes with a mini filter. for that kind of setup. So you can fill your bag up, hang it at camp, and it's ready to go when you get back at the end of the day. If you get a large group of people, it'll do a gallon in about 7 minutes. There's some factors there with elevation and your water clarity and all that kind of stuff, but you can filter a full gallon of water in about 7 minutes with a gravity system.
So I have not done that yet. That's one of the things that I'm going to do this year is I plan on, when I get back to camp, and we podcast almost every evening now when we're in the backcountry. We just have a lot of fun of turning the camera and the mics on, and we talk about what we did that day, and make fun of each other or make fun of other people that's in our circle of the outdoor industry, or stuff like that. And then we talk about what we might be doing the next day, or things that we did wrong, or lessons that we like, all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, why am I not having a dirty bladder hanging someplace, just dripping clean water, so then I'm not sitting there having to filter my water? It's a better use of time, right?
For
So
sure. That's a lot of people like to run a dual bag system. So you've got a dirty bag, you got your hose running down to a clean bag. So then all your water's clean whenever you get back. Other folks just want the dirty bag with the hose hanging, and you can go over and just get clean water as you need it. You can flip the cap shut until you're ready to go. So it's kind of like a faucet almost. But there's multiple different ways to do that there, just kind of based on your preference and how soon you need water. But that's a great option. Like if you get back to camp, you want to fill up your bag, you can be filtering water as you're cooking dinner or getting the fire going or cleaning game, whatever you're trying to do. So it's a great multitasking tool, and you don't have to sit there and manually do it yourself. So save you a little bit of time whenever you're trying to hurry up and go to bed so you can get up early the next morning.
do you have any ticks or trips that people ticks tricks or tips that other users have sent in regards to not having a water source large enough for you to get this bag full from? So like maybe creating a seep. Um, that's the only concern that I've had with my squeeze filter, and I've yet been in an environment where it's happened, but it's always on my radar. How do you overcome that with the Sawyer squeeze?
That's a
And it's
quick. So you
possible.
mean just a water source small enough that you're not really filling your bag up?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of that. I guess it would just kind of take a while, you got to hold it under a drip or anything like that. So, um, you do need a little bit of, either gravity or pressure to get it through that filter. So you might be stuck
Well,
at the water source for a little while.
I, I'm talking about filling your bag, so
Hmm.
like when you have a pump system, you can have the smallest little water source and you can put that suction hose in there and you can suck the water out of it. But if it's not big enough for me to submerge my bag in, I have to try to get the water into my dirty bag in order to run it through my
Hmm.
filter. I guess I guess you could go 50 milliliters at a time with your
But
bag flushed.
our mini filter does come with a straw, so you could drink directly from that source if you wanted to. You could also do that with your tubing, if you wanted to just put that tubing and drink from the source. Yeah, I haven't actually had that question before, so that's a good one I could take back to the team and get back to you on that one.
I know of several backcountry hunters that will take, they might, depending on where they're going, they might take redundancy in their filtration process, or their water cleansing process. That way they might be a big fan of the squeeze, but they know they're going to an area that's historically dry or has very limited water sources, and they take steri pens, or they'll take a pump with them. But I tend to I 100% rely on my Sawyer.
Yep.
And so unless I know that I'm actually going to be hydrating myself out of like I don't know, like little cattle hoof prints that are full of water or stuff like that. I have carried small pieces of PVC pipe to create a seep if need be.
Hmm.
If you carry a tarp with you, which I always in my bag everywhere I go, I have the Rack Addicts killing pad. You can build a water catch. So this is again, if you're pitched a ways away from a spring or an active water source, but yet the weather is producing heavy condensation or rain, and if you carry a tarp, and I do have Argali just came out with a new very ultra lightweight tarp, so I will have my killing pad in my bag because I use that for a harvest. It's also, I mean, it's multi-purpose. It's hunter orange, so I can use it almost like a space blanket. I can use it as ground cloth. I can use it as a meat tarp. I can use it as a signaling device. I mean, there's so many different applications of it. And one of those is to create a rain catch. So if it's raining out and you're a ways away from a water source, create a rain catch. And then when you get back to camp, drain the water from your rain catch into your dirty bags and filter that water.
Great tip.
Yeah. There's a lot of options out there. You've just got to, plan ahead, look at everything that might happen, say, okay, how am I going to get through this scenario if I encounter it? And this, and so with your hydration system, is there ever one single perfect hydration system? And I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say no because, maybe the Sawyer works all around great in all these different areas. But if my water source are cattle hoof prints filled with water, well, okay, then how do I fill my bag? Right. And doing it by 50 milliliters at a time, I can do that. It's going to take me forever, which that might impact my movement time from A to B. It might impact my time, take away time from hunting. There's some negative aspects there. Somebody might say, well, in that case, I just want to take a SteriPen. Okay, well, SteriPens, in my opinion, I just don't think they're as effective as a Sawyer squeeze. So it's a great backup, right? But I don't know if I would want to just have that as my sole source for taking care of my water. And then anyhow, then you have your tablets, and I want to talk to you about your tablets. But if you've never used water cleansing tablets before, depending upon what you're using, they can have some impactful side effects to your body, especially like your stomach. So I try to use those only in certain applications. Pumps work great, but they take up more room. They're not as small and as lightweight and packable as the squeeze is. So at one point in the 90s, I used to carry around a little squeeze bottle of bleach. That's what I used. I would put straight bleach into a water bladder and shake it up and let it sit for a little bit before I drank that straight. I cooked with it. That's what I used, because bleach kills everything. It's going to kill everything in that water. And if you put a trace amount of it in that water bag, it doesn't really, mess with you too bad. I don't know if it's going to give me cancer later on in life. Don't know. I've got some great memories and it worked. And, you know, I didn't suffer from beaver. I didn't suffer from beaver fever on any of those trips. So it worked and it was lightweight and packable. But again, that option, pretty antiquated, and I'm drinking bleach. So it's, really not the best of options. So it's not great for gut health.
Yep.
So those again, when I say there isn't a perfect water filtration system out there, there's always going to be positives and negatives of everything that we have or use or consider, and everybody's going to have their favorite. My favorite just happens to be Sawyer.
Love to hear it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different water situations out there, but we're lucky in the US not to really have to worry about viruses being in our water. You're really just trying to get out that sediment, the bacteria, the protozoa, and the cysts here in the US. So there's other problems when you go other places, but yeah, we're pretty fortunate here. With our water sources, even the dirty stuff is still pretty cleanable. So outside of, drinking salt water, for the most part, we've got you covered. There's a few special cases still, but yeah, and like you said, if you're drinking water out of a hoof print, that 50 milliliters, you might be getting it all with the one syringe.
Yes, you might.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
there's definitely other options out there, but I mean, we cover most of the scenarios with our filters, so
It has for me so far.
mhm.
So where do you find Sawyer water filters? Amazon. Walmart, Go Hunt, Shields, Academy, all of your major box stores that deal with any type of sporting goods. You're going to find either in stock and or you're able to order them from their website and have it shipped directly to your home. Amazon is becoming the most popular option, and you can typically get it depending upon where you live next day, if not within 48 hours. Mine, I ordered it yesterday. It's going to be here at some point today. So I think from the water filtration system side, we've covered most all of it. Couple of key takeaways that I want to reiterate for folks is one, really setting a standard. Like my little thumbs up just came up. It's so random. The 0.01 micron, that is not an average. That is what your filter is. Back flushing it is important. If the water flow is not performing to standard, even after back flushing, please do not throw your filter away like I did. Contact Sawyer and they're going to walk you through some troubleshooting and getting that filter back up to field readiness, and or you're going to send it in and they're going to help you fix the problem. And then, knowing some of the cool ways that you can attach the filter to different water sources for your use while you're out camping, hiking, backpacking, traveling, wherever you might be. So I think do you have anything last to add? Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, they're great for emergency kits. If you've got a home emergency kit, it's easy to throw in there. You're gonna be able to clean your water sources, something easy to throw in a glove box if you get stranded somewhere, in your boat glove box as well. It only weighs a couple ounces, doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's always better to have it, not need it, and then need it and not have it. So
it's correct. So let's talk about some other type of bugs that don't live in the water, bugs that you just can't stand, that will ruin the environment in a heartache. So, or in an instant, I should say. So I have 3 different containers here. They all have the same stuff in them. It's just different ways of dispersing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our permethrin is an insect repellent for your clothes, your gear, any type of fabric. So the way it works is you spray it on your clothes, it bonds to fabric fibers. So spray it on there wet. Once it's dry, it's completely bonded. It's going to repel and kill over 55 types of insects. What we're really known for is the killing and repelling of ticks. So this stuff works great on ticks. I started using it a couple years before I started working at Sawyer for turkey season, and it's, an absolute game changer. I live in Missouri, and it is tick central. You can't, walk to your mailbox without picking up a tick. So spray this on your clothes, your socks, your shoes. We actually have a study that shows if you spray your socks and your shoes alone, you're 73.6 times less likely to be bitten by a tick. So that's kind of the main entry point right there at ankle level. Make sure you're treating that kind of stuff. One of the tips I give is it doesn't really stick to rubber. So if you're wearing rubber boots, if they have neoprene uppers, you want to give a double dose to that neoprene. You could use it on waterproof surfaces, like if you've got a rain suit or something like that. Just give it an extra dose if you're spraying it on something waterproof to make sure you're really permeating down to that fabric layer. But yeah, 6 weeks or 6 washes with 1 dose. So whichever one comes first, it's the agitation in your washing machine and then the UV rays from the sun that break it down over time. So, if you're not washing your clothes as often, if you're not, leaving your stuff out in the sun, it's going to last longer than that. But that 6 weeks, 6 washes is just kind of a good time to go ahead and re-up your treatment. Spray your tents, your sleeping bag, spray your truck seats, any kind of fabric like that. It'll bond. And, you get in your truck after walking around, you got ticks on you that are going to fall off. You can kill them while they're in your truck. You're not taking them home with you. Another tip I like to give is to spray an old sheet if you're going to go hunting. Bring home a turkey, early season deer, and they are covered in ticks. You don't want to take that home with you. So spray an old sheet down. When you get your deer, turkey, whatever you're hunting back in your truck, wrap it in that sheet on the way home, and those ticks are going to fall off and die before you get to the house. You're not taking that stuff home with you. You're not taking it in with you. You don't really have to deal with them whenever you're cleaning your game. Um, Another fun tip is that you can use it on your dog. So it'll bond to dog fur the same way it does to fabric fibers. So you spray your whole dog down. Whenever you do their face area, we recommend you spray a rag and kind of wipe it on their face just so it's not going straight in their eyes and nose and stuff. But that's 6 weeks of protection against ticks for them. And then I believe it's 32 or 35 days of protection against fleas. So just another great method there. And what I really like about that versus an oral treatment for dogs is a lot of times with those oral treatments, the tick has to bite the dog in order for it to work and kill
Mhm.
the tick. With this, ideally, you're going to kill the tick before it ever has a chance to bite your dog. Can't use it on cats. Cats have a different central nervous system, and it affects them negatively. So it's only toxic in its liquid form. So if you've got a dog and a cat at home, you can spray your dog down, and the dog's fine to be around the cat once the dog is dry. But dog beds, treating your ground blind too, going back to hunting gear, spray down
Okay.
your ground blind when you're sitting out there. I mean, I hate sitting in ground blinds before I started using this stuff because you're just stuck in there with all the bugs and all the nasty stuff. So you can spray that down. You're going to kill the ticks before they can get to you inside your ground blind, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of fun tips and tricks there. Basically, like I said, any kind of fabric gear. So your hunting pack, anything like that. So lots and lots of uses there.
I I I do most of what you've tabled. You've hit a couple of things that I never even thought of. The towel, the sheet in the back of the vehicle. That's kind of a cool idea. Here's one thing that I want to talk about. I spray my tent, I spray my bag, I spray my pack, my bino harness, my hats, my gloves, gaiters. I used to not be a fan of gaiters, never wore them. I bought my first pair of gaiters in 2019. I took them on a hunt. They didn't. It was not the. It was so wet where we were at that our pants were soaked. So the gaiters ended up just being an added item that we're either wearing or packing around in our pack. And it soured me on them, and I put them away. I almost put them up on Facebook, thinking I'll never wear these things again. And then I learned how to properly employ gaiters, and I wear them 95% of the time now, even when it's dry. And the reasoning is I spray my gaiters with Sawyers. So that gives me an added level of protection for bugs, especially like turkey season ended here in Maryland yesterday. And this time of year, the volume of insects and the tick game on the Eastern Shore is stupid. So unless you're tucking your socks in, bugs stuff is going they're going to crawl up your pant legs, and then you're going to have them up all over inside your britches. So those gaiters provide you with an additional level of protection of from things crawling up inside of your pant leg. And then if you treat them with Sawyers, now I treat my boots. I spray the inside of my boots. I spray the outside of my boots. I spray my socks. I spray my pants. I spray my gaiters. Um, Anything that's going to come from the ground directly on me, it's an end game for them. It's they're not going to survive that. It's a huge peace of mind. I spray heavy around my waistline because again, if you're sitting on the ground, whether your shirt's tucked in or out, those critters, a lot of those insects can crawl in between your shirt and your belt line. And again, they're going to find a way to get to your lower body or your upper body. So if you heavily spray that waistline, now you're killing those insects before they can penetrate that belt line. And I control a lot of my thermals, a lot of my layering process is based off of different steps, as light as I can be, and everything's untucked or unzipped. And then my temperature starts to drop or the ambient temperature begins to drop, one of the first things that I do is tuck in my shirt into my waistline because that helps hold heat. The next
Hmm.
thing is I zip up the neck because that now again holds heat. So there's a lot of times where I'm walking around in the wilderness with my shirt untucked because that generates airflow. Well, when you do that, it's even more critical to make sure that you're coating your clothing with some type of a bug repellent, most specifically tick repellent, because now you've given them free access to get on skin contact. So I spray those things. Again, I talked the shelter. I always spray my shelters. I always spray my bags. I spray my mattress, my sleeping pad. I spray my sleeping pad. I'm 51. I like a comfortable place to sit. So I have a very ultralight. It's made by Helinox. It's an ultralight little packable chair. I spray that thing.
Hmm.
Um, Anything that I think that I'm going to be sitting on or that a bug can crawl on, especially again, a tick that can crawl on me to get to where a pathway to my skin, I'm spraying it. Now,
Right.
after we spray this, let's talk about meat to material contact. What would happen if a person sprayed their meat bag with this after it's dried?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that. But once it's bonded to those fibers, it's bonded to the fibers. So there's not really going to be the excess. Um, I would, just with it being a chemical, I would maybe caution against that. I can get you an answer on that as well. But just top of mind, I would always err on the side of caution, especially whenever you're putting food on something. It is a pharmaceutical grade chemical, so it's fine to be around you and around your skin. So let me double check on that, and I can get you an answer, and you can put that in your show notes or however you want to address that.
I'd appreciate. I'm not saying that I would do it, but
Yeah,
there's a listener out there that's saying, "Hey, the sheet in the truck's a good idea. Maybe I just treat my game bags." Well,
yeah. I mean,
I
that
mean,
would. Do you mean in regards as putting, meat directly on the bags, or if you're just gonna, put your turkey in a bag? I
no,
guess there would be
as
a big
in
difference
as,
there.
as
Yeah,
in as in having your meat bags treated for whatever
yeah.
your use of application is going to be in the
Yep.
back
Let me
country.
let me double check on an answer for that. I don't want to give you a yes or no either way for sure on that one
Okay.
because that's kind of a sensitive topic there with your food. So I'll double
Very
check on
much
that
so.
and get back to you.
But
Um,
a sheet in the back of the truck. I mean, even if you're, I'm going to be gone for 10 days.
mhm.
At some point during that trip, my Sawyer's is going to start to wear off. 10
Yeah.
days in the backcountry, Sawyer's is going to start to wear off. Now, I'm going to have a bottle of it in the truck so that if we end up at the truck at any point, we can recoat as much gear as possible. But if you had a sheet, especially if it's stuffed inside of an enclosed bag, put it in a dry bag, put it in a garbage bag, put it in a plastic tote, and it's treated really well. When you get back to the truck, if you spread that sheet out in the bed of the truck, and then you take your pack off, take your vinyl harness off, whatever, you put it in there.
Hmm.
Anything that's surviving on your pack at that point that falls off onto the sheet, it's done. It's just
Yeah.
an extra layer. That's a really, really good idea. I hate ground blinds. I will not hunt in a ground blind if at all
And
possible.
yep.
But that's a great idea. Why would you not go in and spray the inside and the outside of your ground blind?
Yeah.
If you
And
have any type of a tarp or pad or carpeting inside your or ground bearings inside your ground blind, treat it.
so, I mean, we're known for repelling ticks with our permethrin, but it works on over 55 other types of insects, including mosquitoes. And mosquitoes are better hoppers than flyers. So, when you watch them, they're all erratic flying around and they're going to land on a bunch of things. So, the more gear that you can treat around your campsite, around where you're hunting, anything like that, the more opportunities they have to land on something that's been treated with permethrin, the more effective it's going to be. So, just more surface area, the better pest control that you're going to have wherever you're sitting or hunting at. So that's what I really like about this stuff is it moves with you. There's some other insect repellents out there that kind of work stationarily. If there's a breeze, something like that, our stuff's gonna move around wherever you go. You're gonna be protected because it's built into your clothes. So
Let's talk about application.
yeah.
I I will. So I have two different sized aerosol cans, and then I have the liquid spray. I for in your vehicle, or if you're going to carry this in a pack, I prefer these aerosol cans, and these smaller aerosol cans are great to be stored in your vehicle. I keep one underneath the back seat of my truck. This larger can typically hangs around the house, and you can spray a lot of gear down with this one large can of spray. But as far as treating stuff at home in a controlled environment, I prefer I prefer this because in an aerosol application, it's aerosolizing the liquid that's in here. It creates a lot of overspray. Any type of thermals or wind in the environment is you're going to lose a lot of your product when it's coming out of an aerosol. These are super convenient, but you will lose a lot of the product during the application process. It's a lot easier to control product loss during the application process when you're using the spray bottle. And you
Absolutely.
can also, and I think you can also control the amount of product that you're putting on different areas of different items versus like this is like spray painting. Like you're spray painting your gear and your clothes when you're using this can. This is a much more controlled application. So that's my feedback on that. But let's talk about the hazards of. I treat my stuff prior to going into the field. I also treat my stuff um, during different points while I'm out in the field. Meaning, again, if I go back to the truck to move to locations, if I go back to the truck to drop off meat, I'll typically reapply. When I do that, I'm not undressing at the vehicle and then spraying all my stuff down and waiting for it to dry. But if I'm going to treat clothing and gear that I'm currently wearing, I only treat areas that is not going to have product to skin contact until it is potentially dry. What's your recommendations on that?
We always recommend spraying off of you. So you want to spray outside in a well-ventilated area. You want to give it about 2 hours to dry. So permethrin's not gonna hurt you. It's kind of a misconception that it's a really scary chemical, but your skin breaks it down in about 15 minutes. So it's just not an effective use of product to spray it on your skin. But with it being a chemical, we do recommend that you spray it outside. You know, you're not breathing it, you're not doing it in your bedroom or anything like that. You want to do it outside in a well-ventilated area. Give it 2 hours to dry before you start wearing it. So we never recommend spraying it on yourself while you're wearing your clothes. Just kind of best practices is just to do it before you go. But it does last for 6 weeks or 6 washes. So once it's on there, it's bonded. Um, like I said, it's the UV rays in the sun. So that's where the 6 weeks comes into play. If you're going to spray your tent and go camp for 3 months at a time, after 6 weeks, you would want to reapply it. If you're, turkey hunting and you want to wash your clothes every day when you come home, you're going to want to retreat it after 6 washes.
Okay.
If you're wearing, if you're just washing your clothes once a week, you can retreat it after 6 weeks. So it's going to stay in there. It really bonds to that stuff. If you walk through a creek, it's not going to come off in a creek. If you're sweating a lot, your sweat's not going to break it down. So it really takes a lot of agitation to get that product out of the fibers or, the UV rays from the sun. So you're covered for a long period of time. Whenever you get it on there, there's really not a need to reapply. Totally understand people wanting to overlap their treatments there, but yeah, we always recommend treating it off of your body. And again, like there's just not a ton of need to reapply. I understand the wanting to stay protected because that this is Lyme disease awareness month. Lyme disease is nasty. Like you said, on the East Coast, that stuff is thick out there. So we want to stay protected, but yeah, it's a great product. It's going to stay on your clothes and you should be good to go.
So you're saying that I'm being a little excessive in my Sawyer
Yep.
application.
Yes, just a little bit, but totally
Okay.
understand the thought process behind that. But yeah, you
It's
should
good to know.
be safe for 6 weeks or 6 washes. So there's actually a little bit of leeway on the outside of that, but we want to make sure people are getting a good overlap on their treatments there. So there's not any kind of lapse in protection.
And you can get it pretty much anywhere. I typically buy it at Walmart.
Yeah.
I buy
Yep.
most of my Sawyer permethrin at Walmart.
Yeah, we're Bass Pro, Amazon, Cabela's, REI, Academy, just about anywhere. So we're pretty easy to find.
Excellent. Do you have anything else for us?
One other point on permethrin is it dries 100% odorless. You can definitely smell it when you spray it. It's got kind of a chemically odor when you spray it on there, but great for deer season, totally odorless once it's dry. So that was something that I searched for a long time, was trying to find an odorless insect repellent because I'm a mosquito and a tick magnet. Every time I go out, they find me. But it's a great option for when scent control is important to you. So that's kind of the last point on that one. And then our other insect repellent is our picaridin. So it comes in a little blue bottle. This is our topical solution. So permethrin goes on your clothes. Picaridin is ideal for your skin. So we still sell DEET formulas. Like we have 100% DEET. We have some time release DEET formulas. Picaridin is a great alternative to DEET for folks who don't want to use DEET. DEET is a plasticizer, so it will break down your gear, your plastics, any kind of synthetics over time. Picaridin won't do that. So it's totally gear safe. It was originally marketed as our fisherman's formula. So if you're out fishing, it's not going to break down your fishing line because that was a really big deal with DEET was it'll eat away your fishing line over time. Picaridin won't do that. It's not going to eat your plastics. It's not going to eat your sunglass finishes, your watch faces, anything like that. Totally gear safe. It's unscented. You can kind of smell it when you spray it on you, but it's a very pleasant odor. It's not that strong chemically smell, and that goes away once it's dry. So another really good unscented option for hunting. It's family friendly, so you can use this on toddlers as young as 6 months of age. You can use it on expecting mothers. It's a really gentle product, but very, very effective. Works great against ticks, chiggers, mosquito, gnats, all that kind of stuff. Feels good on your skin. It's not greasy. It's not stinky. It's not oily. Just a very pleasant all-around insect repellent. So we really kind of recommend using those two in tandem. So treat all of your clothes with permethrin. Any exposed skin that you have, you'd want to treat with picaridin. So like say I go turkey hunting. I want to treat my glove line anywhere where I think that a tick might touch my skin before it's going to touch any kind of treated clothing. So collar lines, I'll treat the inside of my belt line, right around where my sock line is, face, any kind of that exposed skin area. So that's kind of our 1-2 punch against ticks, chiggers, mosquitoes, all that kind of stuff is using those two together. They both work great on their own, but if you're really getting down in the thick of it, those are just two great products to use together.
How effective is the picaridin against mosquitoes?
Very effective. Yeah,
Is it?
very effective. Yeah, it works great against chiggers, and it's actually more effective on biting flies than DEET. So kind of the
Really?
trick with picaridin is it works a little bit differently from DEET. So DEET with that strong smell, it's got a really high vapor barrier, so it's going to work further away from your skin. Picaridin works closer to your skin, so you got to use a little bit more of it. I tell folks to use it more like a sunscreen, so you want to make sure you're getting full coverage with it. Anytime somebody comes to us saying that they don't feel like it's working as well as it should, we tell them to use more and they come back and say that was the ticket. So you just
Okay.
got to use a little bit more of it, especially with like 100% DEET. You can kind of spray some here and there and it puts out that big vapor cloud and you don't have to have a ton of it. This you want to use a little bit more, but it's just as effective when it's used properly. So it's a little bit of a learning curve there, but it's just great stuff. That's by far my preference whenever I'm going out in the outdoors.
And what size bottle is that? And what is your average application number of applications per bottle?
So this one is a 3-ounce spray bottle. So this will last several applications, several trips out in the woods. We also sell it in a lotion.
Okay.
The lotion, I think is in a 4-ounce bottle. So you get a little bit more use out of that. I do think the lotion is easier to make sure you're getting full coverage with that.
Okay.
But it's kind of, again, like a sunscreen. So you'd get about as many uses out of that as you would a sunscreen bottle. But they're both just, yeah, really easy to use. The spray that I have here is effective for 12 hours for ticks and mosquitoes, and the lotion is effective for 14 hours. So it's a really long lasting all day application.
So I was not aware of the picaridin, so I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Especially we have a couple of planned scouting trips between now and fall deer season.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that a couple of those areas, they're going to be buggy. So I'm going to experiment with that and see if that's going to be a viable option for me. My last backcountry turkey trip, it was last week. I treated everything with with Sawyer's, and then I carried a can of I can't remember the brand. It comes in a red can and it's for ticks. I don't think it's Deep Woods Off. It's another brand, but you find it's always stacked on the shelves right next to your
Mm-hmm.
guys' product. I carried a can of that aerosol with me into the back, and I had it with me all day, every day. The mosquitoes were so bad in where we were at in the Appalachians, it was nuts. And I was spraying myself down 3-4 times a day with that stuff. And we packed thermocells in with this as well. So when we would set up for birds, one of us would fire up a thermocell. When we were sitting in camp, we'd have a thermocell burning because the mosquitoes were so bad. And that's with everything treated
Mm-hmm.
with Sawyer's. I'm spraying myself down with that red can of bug spray, and then we're running a thermocell, and we still had mosquitoes penetrating all of that. Not that we were getting beat a bit. I left that trip. We logged 3 days in there. I left
Mm-hmm.
that trip with one mosquito bite, and it was on my wrist, in between my cuff and my glove. I had one
Uh-huh.
mosquito bite, and it was right next to my watch band. Um, so I mean, it everything worked, but I mean, there's a lot of tools that we used to make it out alive, per se, alive without bites, not being bit to death. So
Right.
I'm
And that's
I think I want to try that. I'm gonna try that lotion, see how it works.
it's great stuff. And especially, again, from a hunter's perspective, a lot of these turkey guns have really nice paint jobs on them. And if you're spraying DEET around those paint jobs, they get that sticky, nasty feeling and that paint starts to peel. This is going to be safe around all those synthetics. So outdoorsmen spend a lot of money on gear.
Yeah, we
And
do.
you don't want a $10 bottle of bug spray to ruin that expensive gear. So, gear safe option, if you're rafting, anything like that. This is just one of my favorite products by far is the Keratin. So
So I have a stray round before we get into another really cool topic, and then we'll get things wrapped up. But I did not know that you guys had water treating tablets. So talk about that
no,
really quick. Well, so is there a different brand then? Because when I was looking on my search for just a filter and not having to purchase another whole kit on Amazon, it with your filter kit, it comes with.
Amazon makes some interesting bundles on its own sometimes. It'll
Oh,
decide
do
what
they?
people look
Okay.
at and it'll tag products together. Yep.
Okay, never mind
We've
then.
seen that one
I
pop up
thought,
a couple
I was
times.
like, oh my goodness, Sawyer has treatment tablets. This is brilliant because treatment tablets can be a very good backup for certain scenarios. Let's say you fall and you crack your Sawyer filter. If you've got a Ziploc bag or a small container of water treatment tablets, you can get yourself back to a clean water source or to a Walmart or a outdoor store and buy a new filter to get back into the backcountry. So having that super lightweight, the pills, again, I'm not a big fan of them, because they can change the way your water is going to taste, which will impact your food. But also, some of us, our stomachs react differently to those water tablets. So they can either cramp you up, they can bind you up, they can make things really, really loose and awkward. So if you're going to have tablets as a backup, make sure you test them at home before you go into the backcountry so you know how your body's going to react to it, because
Let's
you
try
don't
it.
want to find out what that little tablet's going to do to your guts when you're out there, with logs and a limited amount of wipes. So just something to really think about. But no, I got excited thinking, holy cow, Sawyer's got me covered across
That's
the board. But apparently that's another brand. So okay,
AI and algorithms teaming up. So
gotcha. Okay. Well, so last thing that I want to talk about, and then we'll cut everybody loose. Because honestly, I mean, wow, we've been going at it for a little bit. You guys, when I say you guys saying Sawyer do some incredible things around the world that other, not just water filtration companies, but US based companies as a whole, you guys are doing things that a lot of companies do not do. And that's one of the reasons why I really, really like using your product. Because you guys look at
Yeah.
the big picture. I have a 501c3. I try to base my endeavors off of bettering and improving not just myself, but other people. And Sawyer does the same thing. And I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, so that's, one of my favorite things about this company is we don't come out with new stuff very often. We're kind of slow movers as far as bringing things to market, but when we bring things to market, it's so easy to stand behind the products because we're trying to be the best in whatever field. So we want to make sure we're delivering a top quality product. And like I mentioned before with our water filters, we're going into a lot of places where there is no option for clean water. Folks are drinking out of, nasty river systems that potentially have sewage or just all kinds of contaminants in there. And we're really blessed to have technology to provide a solution for those folks. So we work with over 140 different organizations, NGOs, nonprofits, religious groups, anything like that, in over 80 different countries. So we do stuff domestically. This little filter weighs a few ounces, and it's a lot cheaper to ship a pallet of this than it is to ship a pallet of water bottles. And with a water bottle, you're giving somebody one drink. With this filter, we've had some of these in use for well over 10 years now. So you're providing somebody with a change in their whole life. So we've worked with a lot of groups that, they go in these places and folks, when you can die from drinking water, which you have to do every single day, they make choices based off of, I could die tomorrow. When you bring this stuff in and you're giving folks hope for a longer life, they start changing their life based on that too. So it's incredible how powerful of a tool these little filters are. We're able to go to some really cool places. We've done some border to border clean water projects. We just wrapped one up in the Marshall Islands where this
Wow.
entire country is now using Sawyer water filters to get clean water. So we work in the Kibera slums in Kenya as well. A lot of those folks will collect clean water from the rooftops, but birds fly over those rooftops, they defecate on the rooftops. That water's not clean either. And their drums where they're collecting all of this water, it's still contaminated. The rivers are contaminated. There's just nowhere for them to go to get clean water besides using these filters. So we work with a lot of really neat groups that go in these places. They teach them how to use the filters. Sometimes the filter is used as a religious tool. It's used as a great opportunity to go in and minister to people. We work with a lot of secular groups as well that just want to go do good around the world. So we're blessed to have the technology to change lives, and we want to use that technology wherever we can. So we donate approximately in the ballpark of about 90% of our profits to going in and helping these folks. So whether it's,
Wow.
selling these filters at the discounted rate to these groups, occasionally we're able to give them away, but every single time you buy and sell your product, whether it's bug spray or a filter or anything like that, you're contributing to this project. So like I said, it's just an amazing company. I feel very fortunate to work here. There's a lot of good coming out of this little company. So
I did not know that so much of your profit margin is going towards your 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 help and assistance throughout the world. That's amazing. That makes me feel even more gooder about using and promoting Sawyer products. That's awesome.
yeah, it's a feel good product for sure. There's so much good that you can do with buying a filter. So we're kind of working on our ratios and how we can show, if you buy this one filter, the good that you're able to do. So hopefully that's stuff that we can have in the near future. But there's just, yeah, it's amazing the work that one filter can do. I mean, one filter can give a whole family clean water for years and years and years. And
Mhm.
that's, one of the other neat things about this is it's pretty simple. It's small. If you've got one and your neighbor's got one and, they lose a gasket or something happens and their filter's out of commission, they can come to your house. They're easy to replace. It's a great option. Wells are awesome. There's a lot of awesome foundations that go around and build wells, but after a couple of years, those wells are usually out of commission. They go into default, they get contaminated, they dry up. And it's really, really expensive to go dig a well versus we've got this little water filter. And like I said, something happens to it. It's easy to go to your neighbor and get clean water still. The whole village isn't out if the well goes under. So there's just a lot of good that comes out of one little filter. So
Love it. That's awesome. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode. This was a great one. I've really enjoyed this.
yeah.
I'm really excited for us to do another episode together, but the next episode, I think it's going to be based off of hunting. You've talked about turkey hunting a lot. I love turkey hunting. So I think we need to, even though season's over, we might have to do a turkey recap at some point. We can talk about our seasons, and then maybe we'll do some future hunting episodes. But this has been a really good time. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Me too. Appreciate it.
All right. So just really quick, tell everybody where they can find Sawyer, where can they find Sawyer, social media programs, anything like that.
Yes, our website is Sawyer.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Sawyer_sportsman. We also have Sawyer products if you're more into the hiking, camping side of things, but Sawyer Sportsman will do the hunting and fishing and that sort of stuff. If you're interested in learning more about the Sawyer Foundation and how we give out more, you can go to sawyerfoundation.org. We also have an opportunity to donate there if you'd like to support our clean water missions.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody, remember, gave a shout out to all our sponsors at the beginning of this show. Just a reminder, those sponsors, your use of those codes does not benefit Limitless Podcast whatsoever. I pursue those companies because I use and trust those companies. And those codes are to benefit you and you alone. Again, it does not benefit the Limitless Podcast whatsoever. Thanks for listening in. Go get a drink of nice cold water. Be limitless.